right? So we now know about code, about extends generic item, and we know about deployment table, and we just know about attribute. Now, okay, we also know about this type, what is the data type and all. Okay, guys, I'll try to, uh, let's try to see when the table is actually getting created and all that stuff. See here, uh, let's assume that I want to save data into a particular table from the business layer. Can you tell me what is a general standard in a J2W application? You want to save data into a table from the Java layer, from the business layer. How would you generally do that?
We'll use JDBC.
Hmm.
Then
JDBC is not the standard, so you will use some kind of Hibernate
okay,
or
if you say Hibernate, then we will configure all the table name, etc., in the session factory in the Hibernate XML file, and then we'll get the session factory object, and then using that we will save it into the.
You are not still to the point. I want to save data into the table. Now tell me. Thing. But what is the main logic behind saving? I have a table. I want to save data into the table. I want to save a row in the table. Now what will I do?
Okay,
We will change model.
Sunil, tell me in a normal J2EE standard here.
okay, we'll first identify the entity, and we'll do that save or persist or whatever method.
So you to create that entity, what will you do?
We'll define it as at entity, or you can go through the you can declare it in the XML file.
So that is what I was asking. Okay, Sunil, don't mind me saying this, and other guys who are currently working on Hybris. When I'm asking a question, remove Hybris from your mind and tell me from whatever I'm asking. Okay, that perspective. If you already know a concept and I ask you a question and you tell me the same answer, you are not learning anything new. Okay, think from a normal perspective and let's see how Hybris is offering a solution. Do not use the keywords that I was that I am trying to communicate. You use a certain term, you're actually screwing up the full answer and analysis. Okay, don't mind me saying this. It is not in a rude way. I'm just telling you in a friendly manner only. Do not try to take out the terminologies unless until it is told in a class. Till now, I never told about model and anything. So don't take out that word. No, general example I'm telling you, because otherwise we will not know why we are using it. I cannot really come out with an explanation. Don't mind me. Okay. Now, see here, guys. The concept is, for those of you who are from a functional background. See, I have a table in my database. Okay, this is my table. Now I need to save data into this particular table, but this particular thing is in DB layer. This is in a database. Okay, this is my database and this is my table, and this is my Java class. Okay, or I can say this is my business layer. From here I am trying to connect it to my database. So where are we mentioning our database connections? Where are we mentioning our database connections?
We are mentioning it in the hibernate config.xml.
Come on. Now tell me with respect to Hybris. In our Hybris, where are we mentioning our database connections?
Okay, in our Hybris it is local.properties.
So now what happened is, it has checked the local.properties or project.properties, whatever it is, and then it has come to a conclusion that okay, you are connected to this database. Now, in the database what tables are there. Okay, what tables are there? It starts thinking in that way. Okay, where are the tables mentioned? What tables should be created? Where are they mentioned?
items.xml.
It will read items.xml file. It will try to create those tables during initialization time. I need to save data into these tables, so I need a corresponding entity class, right?
Correct.
Now that, see, guys, I have a Java class which is exactly mapping to my table. This Java class is exactly mapping to my table. Okay, now this is my Java class, this is my table. Both are same. This is an employee Java class, this is an employee table. So this is called an entity class, this is called a table. This is a table, this is an entity class. Generally, how will you write is, you will try to write using annotations. So you will map this table with this Java class using some annotations and all. That is how we generally do it in normal ORM standards. Now if we try to concentrate the same thing um, in a Hybris perspective, how are we trying to solve this? This particular class is called as entity class in general J2EE standards. When you talk from a Hybris perspective, the same class is called a model class, MODEL, model class. Okay, this class is called a model class. Now when you talk from a model's perspective, every class, every table in any table, be it any table, you want to save data into any table, you would have to need a model class for it. From a business layer, if you are trying to save, I'm only talking from a business layer's perspective. You can even save data into this table without writing a model class, but you cannot do it from business layer. Okay, you have to write an impex file for that. let's let's uh, let's only try to concentrate how are we trying to save from a business layer. You are now you are now logged on to your website. What happened is, you got some data from the front end. Let's say somebody tried registering into your website. Your website, some customer tried registering. Now when the customer tries to register, what will happen is, customer has entered his details, so all his information has been fetched, and there is this data. You want to save that customer information into the database and create a row. To create a row in a customer table, you would require a customer model. This is customer. This is, you require a customer model.java so that you can connect to customer table. You would require product model.java so that you can save data into product. You need cart model.java so that you can save data into cart. You need order model.java so that you can save data into order table. You need payment model.java so that you can save data into payment table. You require promotion model.java so that you can save data into promotion table. So whatever be the table, you just require a corresponding model class. You require a model class. Only if you have a model class, you can save data into tables from a business layer. Remember. Now, who will create your entity classes in Hibernate? Who writes the entity classes?
We are developers, right?
Developers who write the entity classes. Now what Hybris has told is, don't even write the model classes. Don't even write the model classes. I will generate the model classes for you. I will only generate the model classes for you. What you need to do is, okay, tell me, who will write table scripts in Hibernate?
The framework does it.
Table scripts.
What do you mean by table scripts?
Create table script.
That is
I
items.
mean, we have to.
No. I'm talking from a Hibernate perspective.
We have to declare that in the config file.
No. Config file, as in a general perspective. If you are working on a simple Java application, it is you who will write a Java create table scripts. and you will only write a
Yes.
corresponding entity class.
Yeah,
Right.
correct. Got it. Yeah.
You will only write a table script and you will only write an entity class. You will only say that this class and this object, this table are mapping to one another.
Correct.
But what Hybris is saying is, don't care about table script. I will create a table script for you. Don't worry about the model class. I will do that thing for you. What you need to do is mention whether you want a model class or not. Mention you want to whether create a table or not. Only those things tell me. Where do you want to tell me? Tell me that in items.xml file. Once I read items.xml file, it is like a checklist for me. You have gone into a grocery shop. Your mom asked you to get some groceries. What you have told is, give me all the groceries in a slip. Okay, you took the slip. You went to the grocery shop. You have mentioned everything you wanted. So that grocery slip is nothing but your items.xml file to create something. So your items.xml file, the moment you open this contains everything. Okay, it wants product. Now in product, what does it want to do? By reading this, it will understand. You mention a deployment table, it will create a deployment table for it. You don't mention it, it will not create a deployment table. Now, if you see here, Abhiram, just read this very slowly. When I am hovering over generate, what is it saying?
If true, the source code for this item will be created. Default is true.
Read it one more time.
If true, the source code for this item will be created. Default is true.
So for an item type, at an item type level, when you have generate equal to true, it will create a class file, which is nothing but model class. That is what I was just telling you, right? You have a model class. You need a model class, right? This class will be created for an item type. For an item type, that particular class will be created if you mention generate equal to true. Okay, class will be created. I am not saying the attributes will be, the variables will be created in it. Only class will be created because of this. Okay, a class will be created. Now the class should contain variables, getters and setters, right? Yes or no?
Yes.
So you write an attribute, you mention a qualifier, attribute will be created. You just mention an attribute inside that, immediately your Java class will contain your, see, you have your type here, you have your qualifier here. Qualifier means name of your variable. Okay, name of your variable. Type means data type. So you have a string code. Okay, this is so if you have an attribute tag with qualifier and type both mentioned, attribute will be created. Is it clear?
Yes.
Now you have a class created because of your generate equal to true, and you have your qualifier and data type both created, right?
Yes.
Now it's like this. I have my class product model. At this, I now have string code. This is what I understood just now with the current code that I have seen, right? In a similar way, you have localized. So what is localized and all we will see little later. So here I have name, and this is also string. So I have string name. I have unit. You can define a class in a class, right? You can have unit. So you generally define it this way, right? Class department. Okay. Class employee, string employee name, string employee ID, department. Can I not mention it like this?
Yes, you can.
So same thing. Okay, that's it. This is what a class can also be an item type, right? Sorry, a data type, right? That's what. Okay.
Yeah.
Is that user type, Kiran? Like kind of
What is it?
user data type?
It's a class in a class.
Got it.
See, if you just see unit, there is this unit, right? Type equal to unit. If you just scroll down, that's an item type. So the complete type is being created as there. You got the point? It's again another class only.
Yeah, Kiran, got it.
Now, see here. Okay, I only told you that the data type will be created. Sorry, the data type and the variable will be created. But I want to set some value or I want to get some value. I need a getter and setter, right?
Yes.
Right. Now
Yes.
read.
Yeah.
Now read what generate equal to true is saying at attribute level. Read what generate equal to true is saying.
If true, getter and setter methods for this attribute will be generated during the hybrid suite build. Default is true.
Got the point? You want a
Yes.
getter and setter generated for a particular attribute. Use generate equal to true at attribute level. So you are making your model class without even writing your model class. You got the point? You are constructing your model class, but you are not touching your code. You are only writing only in a single XML file. The moment you do a hybrid suite build, based on how you have defined your items.xml file, your model class is being created. Are you getting it?
Yes, Kiran.
Hello?
Yes, Kiran.
So
Yes,
just
yes.
write down. So just write down generate equal to true at item type level will create only a class. It will only create a class. It will not do anything else. It will not create variables and all. In your items.xml file, if you write any item type, inside the item type, the moment you write an attribute, the variable will be created. But its getter and setter will be created only if you mention generate equal to true. Okay, you got the point?
Yes, Kiran.
Now, I don't want getter and setter. I only want getter. I don't want a setter. Okay, there can be such requirement, right? I don't want a getter. I only want a setter. I only want a getter, not a setter. Both ways you want. Okay. Now, within this attribute, you see something called modifiers here, right? Right? Hello?
Yes, Kiran.
Now read what read equal to true is saying slowly and clearly.
Default is true. The visibility of the getter depends on the value of the private attribute.
Aviram, read it a little slowly, na?
Okay.
Read it a little slowly. If you put generate equal to true, it will automatically create both getter and setter. But you then you can say ideally create getter. Ide you mention generate equal to true, both will be created.
Yes, Kiran.
Hello?
Yes.
Now read what right equal to
Well,
true is saying.
that is, a setter method will be generated. default is true. The visibility of the setter depends on the value of the private attribute.
What is that private attribute? We'll see a little later. So what does right equal to true mean?
Your setter method, whether do you want to generate a setter or not.
By default, it is true only. Always it will be generated. But if you want to restrict it by saying that no, I don't want a setter method, what you need to do? Sorry. Uh, so remember this point. You want to create something, you don't want to all and everything can be basically manipulated within your items.xml file. Okay, just by modifying your items.xml file, you are able to see so much of stuff. Okay, till here is it clear?
Yes, Kiran.
Tell me, can you restrict? Let's say this table contains 100 columns. I say select a star from table. I only want 90 columns. I don't want 100 columns. How can you do that?
You usually write all the column names like select, employee name, employee ID, whatever.
So you say you manually mention all those 90 columns, right?
Exactly.
Because if you write select star, every column will be returned.
Correct.
Now see here, read this.
Defines if this attribute is searchable by a flexible search. Default is true. Attributes with persistence types set to Jalo cannot be searchable.
Ignore the last statement. What is that that I hovered on?
Okay, it says if you want to fetch this
What did I hover on?
search.
Search equal to
True.
What is it saying?
Defines if this attribute is
Returned. You might be creating some columns just for calculation purposes based on your functional requirement. You just have created some columns just to do some kind of calculations and all. You must have written it. Probably you did not wanted your model class to save that particular column. Got the point? You did not want that particular column. You may not want that particular column to be returned as a what should I say? The column that will be returned as a part of your flexible search query. You say select a star from table, you will get 3 columns. Although there are 4 columns in the database, you will only get 3 columns. And in the model class also, you want to manipulate using only 3 variables. You don't want 4 variables. You can still do that. You can manage it. You got my point? In a real-time situation, you might come across a design which demands you to create a column and save data just for temporary calculations. You don't want that to affect anything in real time, probably. Then and also when you write a flexible search, you may not want that particular column to be returned. In that case, you can put search equal to false.
If search is equals to set to false, correct?
It's not about table, it's about this attribute.
Right. Oh. Okay.
Only this attribute will not be written. Search equal to got the point.
Yeah.
Now
If true, the attribute will only be writable during the item creation.
just hang on there. What is it saying?
If true, the attribute will only be writable
During
item creation.
During the item creation. If true, the attribute will only be writable during the item creation. Now tell me what are those columns which are generally created in a real time, which will only be writable during item creation. You want to a row. Okay, what are those columns which will only be created once? I mean, to which you give value only once.
The identifier.
No, identifier you can change. Today the name of the product can be Apple, tomorrow it can be Apple iPhone
No,
5.
I mean to say the primary key.
Primary key,
Identifier means ID.
unless
ID.
no. Primary key also I can change. Today the product primary key can be 100. I want to change it to 200 tomorrow. I can change it. Generally, you will not do that, but you have an option.
Created by, updated by.
Very good, very good. Created by. That updated by. That is changed every time the row is updated, right?
Right.
Because that doesn't come under the example that you said. Because I was asking what are those columns which will give only once, So initial equal to true. That means, for example, creation date. For it only. Do you change it afterwards?
No.
Equal to true. You are actually defining your database also at the same time. Okay, you are being a database designer at the same time you are being a Java programmer. Parallelly, you are writing your Java class as well as you are also writing your database. Okay, that's what. Just write down initial equal to true means whenever you try to create something with which is writable only once, which will only be writable during the item creation. Okay, now read the second line.
Okay, setting this to true is only useful in combination with right is equal to false. Default is false.
Read that one more time. Read it slowly now. Let's understand. When you read it, I should understand something.
Set this to true is only useful in combination with right is equal to false.
Now what is it actually meaning? Setting this to true is only useful with right equal to false. If I put right equal to false, what will happen?
You will not have a setter, which means you cannot write the value.
When can I not write the value?
That is
When you
always
set
true.
right to false.
Right.
And at the same time, I mean, because when you set initial to true, that is only settable only during the creation. So obviously we wouldn't want to have that right equal to true at the same time.
You got the point? Logical relation you got? What is it actually talking about?
No, Kiran, you need to explain.
Okay, read
Yes.
it one more time. Read it one more time.
Setting this to true is only useful in combination with right is equal to false.
Just hang on there. What does right equal to false mean?
You cannot have a setter.
Very good. If you don't have a setter, can you set a value from from your model class?
No, I cannot do it from code.
Now what does initial equal to true is saying?
It will
What
be
is-
created only
Read the first line.
if true. The attribute will only be writable during the item creation. So there
When
is
do you
only
want-
one chance.
When do you want to set the value in that?
Only during the item creation.
After the item is created, do you want to give a value again?
No.
So how can you restrict it?
By right is equal to false.
Why? Why right equal to false?
Because there won't be any setter, so you won't be able to set any value.
Brilliant. That is what is the answer. Still doubt?
No, it's clear. Yeah.
Yeah. Others. If you have doubt, no problem. See, there is no, you should not hesitate. If there is still doubt, go ahead. I will explain you, no problem. Aviram, is it clear?
I am still not clear.
You should have told it, man, because I should not ask by every person name. You should tell me directly.
I am
If you have a
sorry
doubt,
for
tell
that.
me directly. If you give a
I'm
long
sorry for
pause, I
that.
will understand that it is understood. That is why. Okay? See here. The point is you want to set a value only once. After that, you don't want to set a value. If you don't want to set a value, you should not give me an option to have the setter. If I have a setter, I can give a value, right?
Correct.
If you don't give me an option to set to have that setter, I will not be able to give a value at all, right?
Correct.
If you give me a setter, I will be able to set the value. Don't give me an option to set. Don't give me an option to set, and disable the option for setter for me. If you want to disable the option for setter for me, what will you do? You have to put right equal to false. If you put right equal to false, there is no setter at all.
Correct.
But I want the value to be given for the first time. The moment I create something, immediately I need to give a value. If I don't give a value at that point of time, I cannot give a value later.
Correct.
So I have to put initial equal to true.
Okay.
If I put initial equal to true, it's like constructor injection.
Oh, okay.
Got the point? You
Yeah.
can only give it once. You cannot have a setter. Is it understood now? Or still doubt?
This statement is confusing. Setting this to true is only useful in combination with right is equal to false. But here already you have mentioned right is equal to true. So do you think this initial is equal to true is void or not useful?
For this particular attribute, they have put both equal to true. But what is the statement clearly saying you?
Setting this to true is only useful in combination with right is equal to false.
Is only useful. So right now this is
Correct. That is what I wanted to understand. Okay,
you should
got it.
see. Ignore what we have written there. It is already given to us by default like this. Core items.xml file is there in platform, so by default Hybris has shipped us with that. But it is clearly suggesting us that it is useful only in combination with this. So ignore, you should not get confused about how they have written. Probably their data model was in idea with designing in that way. But for us, that is not a matter. For us, what it is clearly specifying us in the text is important. It is directly saying us that it is only useful in combination with right equal to false. So remember, whenever you try to create an initial attribute, initial equal to true attribute, you have to make sure that right equal to false. Now try to tell me, let's just be here in the initial equal to true itself. I want you guys to think of something. How can I make this as a mandatory attribute? I want to create a particular row in this particular table. I want to make this particular column as mandatory. How can I share? How can I tell in the table definition?
If I give it as, I mean, if you say mandatory, not null.
Mandatory means not null, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you go here, what do you have here?
Defines if this attribute is mandatory or optional.
1 second. Just first of all, read what I am saying. What is this?
Optional.
Optional equal to
False.
First of all, you have a modifier called
Optional.
Now read what optional is.
Defines if this attribute is mandatory or optional.
Next.
Default is true for optional, set to false for mandatory.
Default is true for optional. I don't know why. What is that stupidity in defining two negatives? Optional itself is a negative word. False is a negative word.
Exactly.
Instead they should have come up with a concept like mandatory equal to true. I don't know. So they have mentioned it as optional equal to false. So don't get confused, guys. What is optional? What is English meaning of optional?
Either this or that.
No, may or may not.
Okay, may or may not.
False means
Not.
No. So optional equal to false means you cannot have this as optional. That means you should give a value for that. Negation of negation. P and Q, P or Q. You remember, right? Negation of negation, P is P only.
Yep.
You mention optional equal to false. That means it's attribute. You need to give a value for this in your column. Whenever you are trying to, whenever in a row you are trying to create a value for a particular column, this column's value should be mandatorily given. That is what it is saying. When you mention optional equal to false, that means you need to mandatorily give a value for this particular column. Generally, what are those columns for which you will generally mandatorily give a value? You are trying to create a row in a table. What are those columns which will mandatorily give? In which you will mandatorily give a value? What are those columns?
Primary key.
That's it. So whenever you have a primary key, make sure you are having optional equal to false. See, if you remember when we tried creating a product in HMC, what were the mandatory values? What were the mandatory columns? Guys, when we created our
Product identifier and product ID.
Come on. Identifier was never a mandatory attribute. Article number was a mandatory attribute.
Yeah. Status.
Approval status. Approval status, catalog version, and article number. These three were mandatory, if you remember. The ones which are appearing in bold in HMC. Guys, at this point of time, if you don't give me answers, it is waste of complete sessions here. You need to speak out, otherwise it will be waste, because the interaction should be from both the sides. Just because it doesn't mean just because you are paying money you cannot talk. I am also interested in taking class only if I get answers. Okay, so if you have any doubt, you can talk to me, but at this point of time, respond with the answers. We are halfway through the course. We are almost done. We are at a 60% level right now. You need to speak up, come out with answers. So I'm not asking you some questions in a rocket science way. You should come up with answers. Okay, try to be more faster when you try to tell me the answers, okay? Because this is from the code's perspective. People who are having database experience and Java experience can only survive in this particular concepts. If you are not having clarity in database and Java layer, I cannot really help you out, because at the start itself we had a promise that if you are coming to a technical sessions, I'm gonna eat you up, pakka, because I myself am a very technical person. More than functional, I'm more technical. So I'm going to eat you up with your answers. I would come up with all, left and right bashings. You have to tell me what are the possible designs, because I might not be able to think some designs. You should suggest me some designs. Even if we talk only, then we'll come up with more and more designs. Then you will come to know, okay, this is how I can design if I have a requirement in such a way. Because your client will never say put optional equal to false, right equal to true. He will never say. You are the one who is going to decide it. When you are the one who is going to decide it, you should come up with a functional analysis. You should think why for everything. You should not always have why. Explain. You should not come up with explain for me. You should try to come up with a first of all try to come up with an explanation for you yourself. How, if I have a functional case, like for example, I want a mandatory value to be entered whenever I create a row. I want a mandatory value in my database. How should I do that? How should I do that? That's where you will try to design your application. So generally speaking, most of you might be having experience, but I also know that in the class there are several people who are just having 2 3 years of experience. Guys, for you people, you can project yourself as a Java developer only and only if you know how to develop UI, business layer, and a database layer. You should never be confined to only one part of it. Then then you cannot really project yourself as a Java developer. Java developer doesn't mean only writing Java code. It is also about how to interact with other layers when you write it. Okay, so just a tip for you: think from a database perspective as well, because we are at that particular phase now. Now coming back to the topic, whenever you have a field which is having optional equal to false, remember that means it's a mandatory value. You want to create a mandatory value with some constraints imposed on a column. Then you need to make sure that you are putting optional equal to false. Okay, optional equal to false means you are having it as mandatory. That's it. Okay, you want to write down notes, write it down, because I'm not going to give you material for this, because there is no handout material. There is nothing available like particular tag, this particular tag means this particular tag means this. There is nothing like that in clearly, like one liners directly, they are not present in your wiki hybris also. Okay, and writing so much of thing by typing and all is also a very big time waste for me. That is why I don't write it. You guys try to write whatever way you understand. Next, read what unique equal to true means. Okay, Abhiram, I think he has gone offline. He might rejoin.
I'm here. I am here.
Okay, read
If
it.
true, the value of this attribute has to be unique within all instances of this type.
Just hang on. Read it one more time.
If true, the value of this attribute has to be unique within all instances of this type.
Just hang on. Now explain what is it. What does it mean?
Value of this attribute has to be unique within all instances of this type.
You are reading that one more time.
Yeah, which means whatever value we have for code, irrespective of how many instances you have for this, it is unique.
Man, you are telling JNTU answer. You are reading whatever that same question is. Okay. Just try to give it a thought. What happens? Others answer. It is not that I am only asking Abhiram. Others should also answer.
The value for making
only that one line.
Maybe it's we are defining this as a primary key.
What does that mean?
So the value can be only once for the table.
The qualifier name could be unique means? No, it
Okay.
is not name. This is how it is. There are 100 rows in the table. Each row will have this column, right, called code. No two rows should have same value. That is what it is actually meaning. It is not name. It is the value. It is the value. It is not the name. Name of the column is always code. It is the value inside that column. Okay. Probably you did not frame the answer perfectly, but you should have done it, because when you say name of the column, it can only be one. Guys, remember, whenever you want to create a primary key, put unique equal to true. Now, Abhiram, go ahead, read the next line also, and stop it after that. Immediately stop after you finish that line.
Okay. If there are multiple attributes marked as unique, then their combined values must be unique.
Read it one more time.
If there are multiple attributes marked as unique, then their combined values must be unique.
What does that mean?
Composite primary key.
That's it. If you have two attributes with unique equal to true mentioned at their modifier level, that means you are defining a composite primary key. Got the point? Got the point?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you give me a real example from whatever we have
Yes.
learned till now? Can you give me a real example from whatever we have learned till now for a composite primary key?
Employee name and ID.
Employee name and ID?
Yeah.
No, man. No.
I can.
You can have two employees with the same name but two different IDs. I accept it, but that's according to you, 1 comma Srinivas, 1 comma Mohan is also correct, right?
Employee ID and user group.
According to your answer, 1 comma Srinivas, 1 comma Mohan, is it correct or not?
No, ID is different, right?
It's a composite primary key or not?
Yeah, it should be. I mean, okay, yeah, it's a composite primary key, but
Is that correct answer or not? Are you getting my point?
yeah, got it.
That is not a composite primary key. Now tell me. Tell me a real-time example, whatever you have learned till now.
Employee extension and employee ID.
Employee extension. What is that?
Extension number.
Extension. Boss, don't go till that level. Tell me something which we have learned and seen till now. I have taught you something. What is it? Narasimha, go ahead.
And order ID.
No.
In the order details.
Order ID and user.
Order ID and user details. Sounds okay. Come up with a very simple example, na? You are thinking way too big. Think from a basic standard. What was the starting topics that we have learned?
Okay, employee ID and address.
Who's employee ID? Who's an employee? Tell me who's an employee. Abhiram,
Yeah.
who's an employee?
Employee is a person who is working in the organization.
No, who's working in the organization means somebody who's managing HMC. Will he have an address? Or customer will have an address?
Customer.
Why are you telling them employee?
Okay, you said real-time example, so I just bought it.
I am telling real-time example from a Hybris perspective.
Okay.
Don't tell me that one. Okay.
Order ID, user ID.
Okay, guys. Let's not think from that way. It's very simple. Very simple. If you can see, the example that I'm telling you is also from product only. Why don't you think from a product's perspective? The code that I'm explaining you is from product level. Product with catalog version. Very simple example. Same product can exist in multiple catalog versions, right? It can
Yes.
be in staged, it can be in online. That's it. So code comma catalog version should be unique and unique. Okay. So guys, think from a database perspective. Whenever it's all up to you. You can come up with several examples. I am just trying to tell you that if you think from a basic example, you can think of a very large one. But if you directly aim for the large one, you may not be correct. So simple things. Because I was trying to give you hints by continuously pointing out here. You are not looking probably at this screen, and so if at all you are trying to think from whatever example I am trying to show you, because that way you will be able to catch it up very faster. Okay. Now let's get back to the point. If I have unique equal to true, what does that mean?
It's a
What
primary
does
key.
it? It's a primary key. If you have 2 or 3 columns with unique equal to true, what does it mean?
Composite primary key.
Remember, write down. So just by manipulating your items.xml file, you are able to do wonders in both your database level and in your business layer level. So this particular thing is very important, guys. Very important. It's a very important thing. Items.xml file is the place where your technical skills will come out. If you are not able to design your items.xml file, my suggestion is to revise your complete hybrid skills again. Okay, because this is where it will decide everything. In the interviews, they'll give you scenarios. They'll say, I want to design my table like this. I want to make sure that I'm not giving a value for this. How will you help me out? I want to make sure that I'm playing around with 2-3 tables and I want to establish some kind of manipulation and relation between these. How will you do that? This is how you do that. You know, items.xml file, the first round's half of your interview is cleared. If he is a proper interviewer, half of your interview is clear. Okay, because first round they will not ask you much. In second, third round, as your technical skills, technical standards increase in the interview, they will start asking your. Because you are putting only 1 year of experience, you cannot project yourself as a 2-3 years professional after you complete the course. This is just that you will have an idea about how you can project yourself in your resume. Now, after this particular course is done, you can put yourself as a 9 months, 10 months, 1 year experienced hybrid professional. Because whatever you learn generally, more than what you learn in 1 year on your own, this is what I'm saying. For example, let's just try to talk to Wasim once. Wasim, are you there?
Yes, I am here.
Sorry to deviate from the topic. I'm just asking, how many months has it been that you have worked on Hybris?
I worked for about a year. Then after 2 years, I've worked on something else.
Okay. So whatever you have learned in that 1 year, and whatever you have learned in the current 23 classes, uh, does it look proportionate?
Well, I think this is better than what I've learned in 1 year.
Thanks. So that's what, guys, I'm telling you out of my experience. Whatever I'm teaching you is more than what you can learn in a 1 year. So you can project yourself as a 1 year hybrid professional after the course. Okay. So somebody who's worked on Hybris, he can really tell. Sunil, how much time has it been for you with Hybris?
It's around 9 months.
So whatever you are learning right now, is it more than what you have learned in 9 months or not?
Yeah, it's more than pinpoint. Whatever exact answer I want, I am learning here actually.
So guys, this is a genuine answer. Okay, these are not made up. Those people also are attending training like you guys only. Frankly speaking, you can put yourself as a 9 months or 1 year easily you can put yourself. Okay, make sure you are learning everything straight and you are trying to put everything to the point, like what he has told. Just write down your notes. This is exactly more than enough for you to crack your interviews. Make sure you're understanding your items.xml file, because if you're for functional guys, this is absolutely of no importance. No, you should not use these terms also. In a functional interview, if they ask, you should say, yes, I know how to design the table structures and all. But for a technical guy, if you project yourself as a techno-functional or technical guy, you need to make sure that you're designing database, because what is the use of writing Java code when you are not able to design your tables? You need to be strong in ORM concepts, because that's what is our food. for a technical developer, that is what is our main course. Okay. Anyways, that and all. Anyways, I'll tell you after we complete our course. But in case you are trying to attempt interviews, guys, if you're trying to put up your resumes and give your interviews, just hang on for 3 or 4 more classes based on the pace with which we cover it. At least if I complete till Impex, the moment I cover Impex, if you want, I'll give a break. I'll give a break for you for 1-2 days. You can prepare whatever you have learned till that particular day. Because believe me, I'm sorry if I'm not able to provide you support after the classes. After the classes are done, I might not be able to give you this much amount of support. There cannot be one-to-one calls and all, because I have another batch in pipeline who have been waiting for last 2-3 weeks just to start a new batch. I'm not worried about starting a new batch as of now. I want to complete one of my batches and then start my new batch. So for you, I might not even remember the names because I haven't talked with most of you till now. I don't remember how many of you are there, so I might not remember your names. Please, when you try to drop me a mail, mention you're a technical guy or a functional guy. When you put a mail, mention that I am from a functional batch. I have this doubt. Otherwise, I don't know how to reply and what to reply. Put this point. Make sure note this thing. Whenever you try to drop me a mail, I'll share my email ID and all that stuff with you. But whenever you try to drop me a mail, mention that you are a technical person or a functional person. Otherwise, I will not know what answer I will give and you might not be able to understand it at all. Okay. Now, coming back to the topic, read what this is the last tag and we'll stop it because I don't want to overfeed with lots and lots of tags and confuse you guys. Tomorrow we will learn them anyways. Tomorrow is what is tomorrow? Friday, right? Okay. Read what persistence type is telling you.
Defines how the values of the attribute will be stored.
After that,
possible values, CMP is deprecated, Jalo not persistent, deprecated, property means persistent, dynamic not persistent.
So how many possible values are there for you to give?
At this point, we have only 2.
What are they?
Property and dynamic.
What does property mean?
You can save it in the database, that is persistent.
What does dynamic mean?
It is transient. You don't want to save it.
Very, very good. Transient. So if you want to create, why do you want to create a transient column, guys? Why do you want to create a transient? What is the use of having transients? What is the use of transients? No problem. Just give an answer. You might be wrong.
It is just an intermediate value that is used. Afterwards, we don't need it.
So you want to have some on-the-fly calculations. That's it. You don't want to see transient columns. Is there any concept called transient columns? Does it make sense when I say transient column?
No.
Because transients itself means it will not be created in database.
Correct.
So transient column is not a perfect English word. It's like oxymoron. I am not sure.
Correct.
Of GRE words. It's called oxymoron, I guess.
Yes.
Right. So two negatives. It's like good and bad together. Good bad. That is not having a meaning at all, right? So it's like that. When you are having something which is 2 negatives together. Same way, when you have persistence type equal to property or dynamic. Dynamic means you are trying to create a transient variable. In your Java layer, you want to create a transient column. When you are trying to create a transient column, do you want to create it in the database?
No.
Do you want the column to be created? You don't want a column to be created, but do you want the column to be there in model class?
Yes, you need to do that calculation, so you need it.
You need the column in Java class, but you don't want the column to be there in database. So this is what the diagrams can be like. See, you have several. I need to select another color probably. You in this sorry, let's talk about table. In this table, you have first column, second column, and third column. Okay, second column and third column. Now what you have done is you have created 4 variables here. The fourth variable or some random variable that you have here, see, this is mapping to this. This is mapping to this. Okay, in your, this is your Java layer, right? This is that variable with getter and setter, which it is there, but you don't want to set this value and save it in the database. You only want this for on the fly calculations. Probably you want to multiply by the factor. This is, let's say, a number. This number should be multiplied with this number before saving it into the database. So you want to multiply this with this. Probably you want some calculations to be done before saving the value, but you don't want to save this value in the database. That's where you will define this as transient. If you are trying to define it as transient, what you need to do is you need to make sure that you are putting persistence type as dynamic. Now, have you anytime written a code for transient variables, guys? Will you write it in the Pojo class? For a transient variable, will you write the code in Pojo class? If your Pojo class contains a transient column, how will you handle it?
Yeah, you can write it. You can declare the...
Do you write it generally?
Business layer.
It will be in business layer. Yes.
Business layer.
It will be in a business layer. It will not be in Pojo class. You will never write it in Pojo because Pojo itself means plain old Java object. If it's a Java object, then you need to have only getters and setters in it. In your getter, you will not write your functional logic. Whatever you want, the calculations logic, you will never put it in the Pojo class. Generally speaking, that's not a standard, industry standard. For that, you need to have a handler classes. So remember, when you put property type as persistence type as dynamic, okay, so let's try to see dynamic. See, whenever you have persistence type as dynamic, you need to have a a tail attached to it called attribute handler. Now this is the name of the bean where you are trying to handle this particular transient column. Okay, if you have a column which is transient, you need to make sure that you need to have an attribute handler written for it. Okay, if you have attribute handler written for it, that means you are able to manage the logic of what this attribute is actually about in this particular bean. You just need to mention the name of the bean. If you open that bean, you know the Spring concepts, right? The name of this bean, and then you need to find out what that bean is and all from the spring.xml files, and then go to that particular bean and you can see the definition of it. Okay, so it's all up to you. If at all you are having your Spring knowledge, you will be able to figure it out. Okay, you can just see the Java classes. Probably you need to find it out what, otherwise you need to go to your spring.xml file, find the definition of this bean, see alias what is it mapping to, and then play around with it, and then you will be able to find it out. Okay, so that particular class file, remember one thing, whenever you are having persistence type as dynamic, then you need to have attribute handler attached to it, because this is also an interview question. This will be an interview question. They will say how about defining a transient column? Then you need to do this. Then they will say, if I have a transient column, where will I write the code to handle the values? You should say you will have an attribute handler where you will mention a bean. Inside that bean, you will write the logic. That's it. Just tell this. That's it. It's the answer. You need not elongate and you need not say extra things around it. Okay, because I take interviews, I only ask people about designing. I'm not asking the logic inside it. So just be to the point, more than enough for it. Okay. So that's it for today, guys. If in case you have any doubts, talk to me. Otherwise, we'll stop the class. There are several things that I need to talk about still. We haven't covered anything yet. The items.xml file is not yet complete. Probably tomorrow we'll be able to.
Okay. When
Okay, let's one second. One second. I'll go name wise. People who wants to ask doubts, please can you unmute yourself? Just unmute yourself and be there. Anybody who wants to ask doubts, just unmute. I'll look at your names and I'll give you a chance. Okay, I see 3 people unmuting. Wait 1 minute. Abhiram, go ahead first.
Okay, when you have initial is equal to true, which is making no sense because right is equal to true, why to have that? You can just remove it, right?
Try around with it now. Just try. Just give it a try. What will happen once we do an update? What will happen? You will only see. Okay. If this is the doubt, it's self understood. For now, they have put initial equal to true. See, you do one thing. Let's say you define 2 classes. Okay. In one class, in the super class, you make something as optional. In the subclass, you make it as mandatory. What will be the highest precedence? When you try to create an object for superclass, what will happen? When you try to create object for subclass, what will happen? Which will get highest priority?
Subclass.
When you try to create subclass object, it will get subclass, whatever has been overridden with the subclass will be having higher priority, right?
Correct.
That's how it is. So when you have both equal to true, what will happen? Deduce logically and you'll get your answer. Okay? When you have both equal to true, although it is not making sense, there are both equal to true. So what will happen? You deduce it.
Okay.
Okay. Just be on mute now. Thanks. Now Rakesh, go ahead. That's it. Items.xml. That is the way. That is the way only. You should never touch model class because it is auto-generated. Read this line once. 1 second. Read this line. Will be. Okay. Now read what this generate equal to true at attribute level is saying. During when you are doing a build, your class files and the source codes are generated by Hybris itself. You are not modifying anything, right? So your job, if you want to modify a model class, is to only modify items.xml file. That will only take care of it internally. That's it. Remember, if you are doing a data modeling, your data modeling should come. Remember, for everybody, whenever you are in a project, only if your items.xml file code is done perfectly, at least you will not be able to do it 100% on the first go itself, but at least 60% of your 70% of your data modeling should be completed. Only then you have to start your coding. Unless until your items.xml file code is written, you are not good enough to write the code. You are not good enough to start your work. You are not good enough to start your project. Unless until your items.xml file is built, you are not good enough to start your project at all. Technically, you cannot write a single line of code unless until you are writing your items.xml file. At least finish half of your design. Then, because once you write your code and then you change your items.xml file, let's say I have written 10 columns here. Tomorrow I found out that there are only 2 columns that are required. What will happen is your queries will change. Your queries will change means your code is changing. Your code is changing means at all layers you are changing everything. If your code is changing at business layer level, the values that you pass to your front end will also change. So front end code also needs to be changed. You are doing a complete rework again. So don't do that. Make sure your database design is at least half done, at least 60% done. Only then you will be able to move on. Once you change anything in the database level, your queries will change, your complete business layer and presentation layer, everything starts screwing up. So don't do that. Okay. Sincere suggestion, learn about items.xml file and then start. For a functional guy, he'll give a functional requirement for you. It is you who should design the solution for that. When you try to design solution, unless until your data modeling is done, you should not start your application code. Okay. So do a POC every time when you see. Okay, see how much amount of our data model is flexible and how much amount of thing can we use from our current design. That's how you should think. Okay, Rakesh, is the doubt cleared? Okay, please be on mute now. Sailaja, go ahead.
Yes, Kiran. I have a question. As for all these modifiers, there is a default value, right? So does that mean that we don't give anything at all, and it will just take the default value?
Yes. You don't give anything at all; it will directly take a default value.
Okay.
You don't mention read equal to true, write equal to true, anything. There are some defaults, so I'll show you the defaults here. I'll show you the defaults. Just hang on. What are the defaults here? Read them.
Equals false. Yeah, initial equals false, read equals true, write equals true, optional equals true, private equals false, and search equals true.
So by default, what is initial?
Is false.
So the Abhiram.
Yes, Kiran, I'm here.
So you saw what is the default value here?
Yeah.
Now try to reduce even more.
Yep.
Okay. Now, Sailja, is that answer cleared?
Yes, it is clear.
Okay. One more thing. Because it has also told private, let me try to show you what private is. Read it a little loudly now and slowly.
Defines the Java visibility of the generated getter and setter is set to protected. If false, the visibility modifier is public. Default is false for public generated methods. Also, you'll have no generated methods in the service layer if true.
So it is saying you that whenever you try to create a getter and setter method, if at all you want them to be protected, when you will have protected and when will you have public? When should I put my getter method?
In general, we'll have public.
When do you put it as protected?
If you don't want to get
when you want
access outside the package.
So you want protected to be there for getter and setter, you can put private equal to true for that attribute level. Okay. If you want getter and setter method of that particular method, of that particular attribute to be protected, then you should put them as private equal to true. Got the point? At the model class level, your getter and setter will be protected instead of public.
Yeah.
Okay. Got the point?
Yes.
But what about the access modifier of the variables?
By default, they are private.
Okay, got it. That's what I was looking. Yeah.
So if at all you see, for example, I am doing Control Shift R and say product model.java. This is an exact replication of my item type. You can see that they are public. Okay, they are public. They are not private. Public. Okay. And if you see, there are getters and setters after this. They are public. They are not private. Sorry. Just scroll down, and you will see getters and setters for them. They are all auto-generated. See, you can see that they are generated. Okay. But remember one thing, I'll try to tell you anyways when I show you model classes in detail. All the values are prepended with this underscore. That means you should not override those values. They are already created for you by Hybris. Do not try to modify them. You are not creating your model class by you yourself. You are not writing it. Hybris is only creating that for you. Okay. These are all the getters and setters. Okay. So what is what? See, get code, set code, get content unit, set content unit, get data sheet, set, get delivery modes. All getters are there. All setters will be there below. Okay. So that's how it is. Get delivery time, get description. Okay. Sailja, is your doubt cleared?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Others? Others, I saw Sunil unmuting
Yeah,
himself. Go ahead.
Kiran, if you can go to item.html product.
Just a second. Just give me a minute.
Yeah, here you will tell tomorrow, or I think you have missed the generate is equals to true, auto create is equals to true.
I told you about generate equal to true today.
Yeah, auto create.
Wait now.
Okay.
What will be covered tomorrow or what I missed, I will be telling you. Don't worry about what is missed. I was expecting
Okay.
a question from whatever we were talking today.
Okay. No, you was going one by one, everything. You just missed the auto
I
create.
was
Sorry,
not going
sorry.
one by one, man. I was not going one by one. After I told you item type, immediately I told you about deployment without explaining these.
Okay.
After deployment, I immediately talked about property, and then I did not explain what is what. I did not tell you what generate equal to true was, but I still went and talked to you about other things. There is a process in which I will tell you. Okay, so just give me
Okay.
some time. If I tell you haphazardly, nothing will be understood.
But
Clear, guys?
no doubt today class. Yes.
Guys, okay. Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. All of you, sincere suggestion. Unless until you try this, you will not be able to remember. After the classes are done, this will all be Greek and Latin for you back. My suggestion: practice, practice, practice. If you are not practicing, don't even attend interviews. Okay. That's it, guys. Chalo, bye.